What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do a, well, I guess this is a prediction video. Let's just ignore the first 3 rounds, guys. The first week did not happen. We only have 16 players in the Australian Open. It's a 16-player tournament. Let's just ignore the upsets and the expected outcomes. Let's just talk about these 16 guys. Out of these 16 guys, first of all, I want to say that in my personal opinion, there are 4 possible winners. Now, the main favorite here is definitely Jannik Sinner, considering his form, considering his 2024 season, considering his hardcore domination, and considering the draw, because objectively he has the easiest path to the tournament title. Now, I was kind of debating going back and forth between Zverev, Novak, and Alcaraz. Who is the number 2 favorite here? You can make arguments for all 3. Alexander Zverev, the biggest problem with him is that he never won a Grand Slam. But he has an easier draw than Novak and Alcaraz simply because Novak and Alcaraz are going to face each other, projected to face each other in the quarterfinals. So Zverev should play the tired winner of that match in the semis. And he has already beaten Carlos Alcaraz actually multiple times on Grand Slams. Now, he never beat Novak Djokovic, which is another problem for him, but he did push him to 5 sets, for example, at the US Open. And it's not going to be an easy matchup for Novak. He has beaten him multiple times in best of 3 matches. So that's an argument for Zverev, and he's also the number 2 tennis player in the world. I think he had the second most ATP wins last season. He ended the season strong. So there are really good arguments for Alexander Zverev. Now, when it comes to Novak, of course, 10-time champion here, 24-time Grand Slam champion. If this is in 2023, you're going to say Novak is the number 1 favorite here. But of course, question marks when it comes to his motivation. Is he going to decline finally? Is he already declining? He's world number 7. He didn't really play tournaments towards the end of the season. He lost to Popyrin at US Open. Does he have it anymore? Nadal retired. Federer has been retired a long time. Andy Murray is his coach right now. So what is pushing Novak? He has won the Olympic Games finally. He has won everything. Stupid records like Margaret Court, 24 Grand Slams to break that. I mean, does that really motivate him? So there are question marks when it comes to Novak's age and motivation. And when it comes to his play, I want to add this. I think the biggest problem, the biggest issue when it comes to Novak in 2024 was his declining return, which is, of course, expectable because of his age, because returning a lot has to do with reactions. But I think that was his biggest issue when it comes to big servers like Sinner. He could not even get to break points versus Sinner during the whole season. And eventually Sinner is going to get a break opportunity. So that was his biggest issue. And he can deal with Alcaraz's serve, maybe even with Zverev's serve, but Sinner is a different beast, so it's going to be difficult for Novak to beat him. Now, when it comes to Alcaraz, I can totally see him beating Sinner. So I actually think that Alcaraz has the best chance at beating Sinner. But then Alcaraz has to beat Novak on hard court. That's going to be difficult for him. I do not like his chances, actually. I think that Novak beats Carlos Alcaraz in the projected quarterfinals. And then Zverev actually beat him 12 months ago here in 4 sets. So Carlos, in a weird way, has the best chance at beating Sinner, in my opinion. But almost has the toughest draw to get there. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. But let's go matchup by matchup. So first of all, we have Sinner versus Holger Rune. Holger Rune, I don't know. You can say he reached number 4 too soon. I think what happened is that back in 2022, a bunch of guys were hurt. A bunch of guys had a bad ranking, and somebody had to be number 4. I mean, Casper Ruud was number 2, for Christ's sake. He was almost number 1. He was 2 sets away from being number 1. So Rune, yes, he was probably playing a bit better in 2022, and he was lost in late 2023, early 2024. But I don't think he was ever that good to be number 4, to be honest. He's a fighter. He's going to be scrappy. He's not going to roll over and die. But there are question marks about his physical not physical fitness basically. He has played 14 out of the possible 15 sets. I'm not sure he wants to go full Daniil Medvedev and basically play every single match in 5 sets like he did 12 months ago, and he certainly does not want to blow a 2-0 lead to Jannik Sinner. So I think I would be really surprised if this is anything more than a 4-set win for Jannik Sinner. I think Sinner takes care of Rune. In my opinion, even in 3 sets, I think one set is going to be super competitive, and the other two is going to be probably like 6-3, 6-4, Jannik Sinner. Now, this is interesting. The second match here is Alex Michelsen versus Alex de Minaur. So we have Alex de Minaur, who's sort of, a bit more experienced player right now, which is weird to say, and he's sort of like improving by an inch every single season. You kind of feel like his ranking is just a bit better than last year and a bit better than 2 years before, and he's playing a bit better. But is he finally going to have a breakthrough? Is he finally going to reach, let's say, a semifinal? Does he have it in himself to push a player like Jannik Sinner into 5 sets, to use the crowd to actually upset him? I don't think so. In a weird way, I almost feel like Alex Michelsen has a better chance at beating Jannik Sinner than Alex de Minaur. Now, will Alex Michelsen do it? No. Is he probably going to get gassed if he reaches Sinner? Probably yes. He's going to get overwhelmed. But he seems to be like a bigger talent. He was born in 2004. He's only 20 years old. He is having excellent results. Now, does he go against the crowd? He kind of feels like a guy who can maybe put up with a crowd, with a home crowd, with the provocations, with the atmosphere. Maybe he can upset Alex de Minaur, and then I don't know. Maybe he has a fighter's chance. But if I have to make a prediction, I think that Alex de Minaur rides the crowd and beats Alex Michelsen in 4 sets, and then he loses to Jannik Sinner in 3 or 4 sets. I just don't see Alex de Minaur beating Sinner, so I already have Sinner in the semifinal. Now let's do the second quarter. This is going to be interesting. Now, I had a debate with myself. Who is the biggest threat to Jannik Sinner reaching another final? Is it Benjamin Shelton, or maybe even Gael Monfils? Gael Monfils on a good day can beat basically anybody besides Novak. Gael Monfils upset Carlos Alcaraz at Cincinnati last year. He has beaten world number 4 Taylor Fritz in 4 sets. So can he keep going? I'm not sure. The problem with Monfils is that he's old and he has these like little nagging injuries which will eventually show up. He's a bit like Grigor Dimitrov, maybe not as good of a player, not as good of a pure tennis player as Grigor Dimitrov, but for sure he's going to ride the crowd. He's a crowd favorite. For sure he's going to play good tennis if he's motivated and healthy. But then you have the young Ben Shelton, who has been sort of ish following his big 2023 US Open semifinal and Tokyo title. He has dropped a little bit in rankings. He's down to 21st. But Shelton is a guy who can be a problematic matchup if he plays really well. Now, my personal problem with Shelton is that he can be all over the place. I watched him against Tiafoe at US Open, and he was just too wild. Like, yes, he's going to hit big second serves. Yes, he's going to hit big forehands. But sometimes, I mean, when he's off, he's missing by 2-3 meters. And that's not a good sign when it comes to a guy who wants to be a top 10, top 5 tennis player, who wants to compete in week 2s of Grand Slams. I think if Gael Monfils is actually the more consistent, the more stable player here, he is, I would say, even a favorite against Ben Shelton. But then Ben Shelton is a young guy. He probably has better stamina, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Gone to my head. I think I'm gonna go with Ben Shelton. In 4 sets. And then probably the weakest round 4 matchup is Lorenzo Sonego versus Teen. So, I mean, I think the winner here is going to lose to the winner of Gael Monfils and Ben Shelton. Yes, Teen has upset Medvedev, and, stories like that happen, and who knows. But, I think it's too soon for him, and I feel like Lorenzo Sonego is a career journeyman. So I think the winner here loses to either Monfils and Shelton. And then the semifinalist Sinner against, well, my prediction is Ben Shelton. Now, will Ben Shelton beat Yannick Sinner? I don't think so. He can be troublesome. I think the crowd is going to be on his side. He can maybe take a set, but the problem again with Shelton is he can get too wild. And if you get out of line, if you get too wild against quality players like Yannick Sinner, you're going to lose. You're going to have bad service games. You're going to get broken, and you're just going to lose in 3 or 4 sets. So I mean, this is kind of easy. I think there is just nobody. I mean, there is just nobody to beat Yannick Sinner. I don't know. Maybe Gael Monfils is just, I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe he plays the tournament of his life. Maybe he stays healthy. Maybe Ben Shelton plays the match of his life. But I really don't think that there is anybody who can beat Yannick Sinner on this half of the draw. Now, let's do the second half of the draw. We have Novak versus Yuri Lehechka. Yes, there's a scenario in which Lehechka is troublesome for Novak, but in my personal opinion, I think Novak wins this match in either 3 or 4 sets, and then he faces Carlos Alcaraz. Now, yes, Jack Draper can be a really dangerous opponent. He's a US Open semifinalist. He's a young upcoming player. He's really talented, but he has played 15 out of the 15 potential sets, and you will have to use every ounce of energy to beat Carlos Alcaraz. You're likely not going to beat him in 3 sets like Botic van den Zandschulp did. Jack Draper played, as I said, 15 out of 15 sets. He has had issues with his cardio prior to this tournament during his career. So I actually have Alcaraz probably winning the first set or the second set tightly, and then Jack Draper is going to gas out. So I have Novak and Carlos Alcaraz. And as I hinted, I think that Novak beats Carlos Alcaraz. I think this is a big match. I think both of them are going to be extremely motivated. I think both of them are going to play extremely well. I think Novak is just a bit better than Carlos on hard court, even right now. I think on clay it's a really, really fascinating matchup because the numbers say that Novak is better because he has won 2 out of 3 matchups, and the third loss was a really, really tight one. But I think that's really 50-50. And I think on grass, Carlos Alcaraz is just right now just miles better than Novak because he has all the passing shots, all the volleys, all the reflexes, all the skills required to be really good on grass. So I actually have Novak beating Carlos Alcaraz in 4 sets to reach yet another Australian Open semifinal. And then we have Alejandro Davidovich Fokina versus Tommy Paul. This is kind of a forgotten matchup. Tommy Paul has been a bit undercover so far on this tournament. Tommy Paul is a former semifinalist here, may I remind you. He's a really, really good player. He's an underrated player. For example, he has been troublesome for the likes of Carlos Alcaraz in the past. I think he beats Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, who has been a good who has had a good resurgence in this tournament so far. I think Tommy Paul reaches another quarterfinal here. And then this is a big test for Zverev. Ugo Humbert is just the perfect guy to upset Alexander Zverev. In the past, Zverev loses to these guys, to the Humberts, to the Fritzes, to the Musettis of the world. I can totally see Ugo Humbert upsetting Zverev in 4 sets. But I must say this. I must say that Alexander Zverev actually not only beats Ugo Humbert, not only beats Tommy Paul, which is another guy who can perfectly upset him, but he actually beats Novak. Yes, I'm a Novak fan, and I say Alexander Zverev is going to reach the Australian Open final after beating Ugo Humbert, Tommy Paul, and Novak Djokovic in 4 sets. And then in the final, he's going to lose to Yannick Sinner in 4 sets. A lot of 4-set predictions. I think it's going to be a bit too much for Zverev. I think if this comes actually true, I think his potential win over Novak is going to be maybe a bit too emotional. Maybe he's going to feel that he finally climbed that mountain, and then Sinner is going to be waiting and ready for him. So I think it's a combination of a couple of factors. I think Sinner right now on hardcore especially is by far the best player in the world. I think his draw is perfect. And yeah, I think Alcaraz has the best chance versus him, but I think Alcaraz has the most difficult path to the final. So here you go, guys. I have Yannick Sinner. I know it's a boring prediction. I have Yannick Sinner beating Alexander Zverev in the final in 4 sets. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I guess see you in a week. let's analyze my predictions.